Okay, as in go? Sorry, 1 second.
Forktales, a podcast that feeds the food and beverage world.
Oh, awesome. Forktales is brought to you by Vigor, a branding and marketing agency for passion-driven, innovative restaurant, beverage, and hospitality brands. Learn more at vigorbranding.com. If you love what we're serving up, please give Forktales a 5-star review on your podcast service of choice. Think of it as a tip for good service. Today I'm joined by my friend Olga Lopategui. She is the head of OLLO Restaurant Loyalty Specialist, and we're going to dive into email marketing and loyalty and all those things. That's going to be a great conversation. But first, Olga, say hello and give a little bit of backstory.
Hey, Joseph. Nice to see you here. I'm Olga Lopategui. I've been in the restaurant world for close to 20 years now. I've worked with large restaurant chains over the years. Actually started out in a very different industry as a lawyer in oil and gas. So kind of came to food sort of very roundabout ways. But for the last almost 4 years now, I've been running the loyalty consulting firm called OLLO Consult. And what we do, we help restaurant chains that have loyalty and CRM programs essentially run those programs with less effort and less resources than they would have to apply in-house. So I learned a lot along the way about the restaurant business and about what are the best ways to reach out to your guests. Lots of opinions, lots of experience there. So happy to share it.
Awesome. So it's funny because I'm sure a lot of people who are listening already are like, email, I know how to do that. We do that already. I've actually heard it firsthand a number of times, but there really is a lot of theory. There's a lot of information that goes into email marketing. And then there's a lot of conflation of email and loyalty program. So I think to start things off, let's help people figure out what is the difference between email marketing and loyalty and CRM and all of that. And what are the similarities?
Yeah, and all of it kind of tends to blend together, right? So at the end of the day, all of it is marketing communications. And loyalty is one of the tools that allows you to communicate a little bit better, because what loyalty programs allow you to do, unlike most email marketing programs, loyalty programs allow you to gather information on the customer on their individual transactions. So when somebody is in a loyalty program, you know exactly when they showed up, how much money they spent, which kind of products they like, how frequently they show up. So that all of that allows you to target those customers better. Not to say that that's the only way to get that information. There are a couple of other methods to get to it and to use it in your marketing, but those tend to be a little bit less cost effective. Although, as usual, everything depends, right? It depends on how you set it up. So, to me, CRM and loyalty, they're very, very close. CRM may not have a loyalty component to it, but it very often does. Email is definitely part of a CRM. CRM is really customer relationship management, any outreach to customers. The reason I love email is not because it's sexy, not because it's popular, but because it's the most cost-effective method to reach people. It's the most familiar. It's non-intrusive, but in a good way. So you're not in their face so that they want to unsubscribe. And it allows you to be fairly creative. It's highly trackable. So, what's not to love? Yeah, not super sexy, but it works.
Yeah, it's still one of the most effective ways, despite being around for so long. So how has email marketing evolved and become more challenging over the years? I mean, because we know emails started, probably in the late 80s, early 90s, and it's only just exponentially grown. And I think we went through a phase, maybe we're still in it, where people will do anything to try to knock through that front door of the inbox and get your attention, to the point where we had to have laws created to prevent them from doing so. So where are we at now? How has it evolved? And why is it still challenging for people?
Well, email, like any customer communication, is always going to be challenging. The moment the brand changes strategy, everybody else copies it, and then guests get used to it, and the companies that manage our inboxes adapt. So I think one of the biggest challenges in the past few years has been the migration of so many people into the Gmail inbox, which has a promotions folder. So a lot of our email does not end up with inbox placement. It ends up in the promotion folder. And while there are ways to manage it, there are ways to get into that inbox. It's pretty challenging, and not everybody can do it. And even if you do get there, you don't always stay there forever. So it's pretty common to drop back into promotion. So the visibility of your marketing efforts with the existence of the promotions folder has become it's more difficult to get noticed. Having said that, if your communications are relevant, you're going to float to the top. If your communications are relevant to the guest, they're more likely to open your email. Because as we all know from our own experiences, we glance at promotion folder and then we choose to open one or two or three emails and ignore the rest. And so the key is, how do you become that communication that the guest actually wants to open? Because you can't make them do anything. You can only get them to want to do it. And that's the magic of the CRM. Because and I'll take an non-food example. So there's a brand of clothes that I tend to buy for my kids, and those guys have figured out I got boys, even though the clothes are for that particular brand, they don't really do like gender-specific clothes, but they figured out I got boys. I buy blue, green, gray, and black. They're boys, right? And I'm traditional. So they when they put subject lines in the emails that come to me, I can tell that half the time there is blue, there is gray, there is green. The colors that I buy are in the subject lines. So I'm much more likely to open the email that talks about blue than the email that talks about purple. And it works, right? So, and I want to open it because they advertise a product that I'm much more likely to react. And the same with food. You know, when you try to target a customer and get them to want to open that email, you want to send them something that you think they are more likely to open. And that's really what the trick is all about: increasing visibility, increasing top of mind, getting them to want to see what you have to say.
Yeah, and a lot of the systems that are out there today do this what's called segmentation, sometimes automatically, but I think it does take a little bit more of a dive. And I've seen it go wrong. So, for instance, I get Banana Republic emails. Oddly enough, I get more emails about ladies' dresses than I do about the stuff that I've actually bought. So, when you get in with a client, how do you start to maybe fix poor segmentation while also instantiating stronger segmentation?
Yeah, so what I tend to do with the segmentation exercises, which by the way, we typically do those for the brands that have significant size databases. Because if your database is like 25,000 addresses or like even 50,000 addresses, I would not recommend any significant segmentation exercises because the segments are so small, it's really not worth it. Or at least I haven't found a cost-effective way to get there for the brands that are for the email lists that are smaller or database lists that are smaller. If you have a relatively large database, so what we typically do is we go in and we look at, well, first we look at the menu and the product mix with the brand. Then we look at what the brand is known for, what types of customers can be groups of customers we can identify within that brand. And then we make some hypotheses as to which segments are we more likely to find to be substantially large that we can target them. And then we also look at we want those segments not only to be large, but we also want them to be meaningful in terms of being able to figure out what kind of communication do these people want. And an example of a bad segment, large but bad segment, is, let's say, females. In the context of the restaurant marketing, well, it's great that you know that I'm a woman, but how are you going to use that for marketing to me? Are you going to just presume I'm going to eat a salad all the time?
Yes.
Or what does it mean? I'm going to eat pancakes with pink? Or, what is it? How are you going to target me now that you know that I'm female? So yeah, it may affect your overall brand messaging. If you're mostly targeting females, it may affect your brand strategy in ways. Some specific pieces of advertising might change. But generally, if you're a restaurant, you really don't care if I'm male or female. You care what kind of product I eat. And a woman that eats steak all the time, you probably want to target her with steak. And the guy that likes pink pancakes, you probably want to continue targeting him with pink pancakes, no matter if it's whichever gender it happens to be. So
Certainly.
I find that demographic information is really, really important for brand positioning work, but it's substantially less relevant for marketing communications most of the time. Not always, but most of the time. So I try to work predominantly with things like product preference, day parting, spend preference, and frequency. So RFM, recency, frequency, and monetary spend.
Yeah, it's funny that you say for positioning, because I think demographic is actually useless for brand positioning in general. And in my book, which is right behind me, so I'll do the sales pitch.
Okay.
In my book, I talk about behaviors more than anything, because you're right. Just because I'm a man doesn't want to I mean I don't want to have pink pancakes. And just because I'm a man doesn't mean I don't want to go to Flower Child, for instance, which is I think a more
Yep. I'm a
feminine.
big fan of Flower Child.
Yeah, yeah. So demographics I think are long gone. I think the only place that they truly have meaning and use is when you're trying to find though like people like me in other areas as you grow and scale. And we talked to Gregory Nasser from Born, who does
Mhm.
location intelligence, about that very thing in a previous episode. So you talk about these really large email lists, which I think to the 1 to 10 location restaurateur leader, they're probably like, "Wow, that's huge. I'm never going to be there." But I have found that a lot of restaurant leaders don't put a lot of value in building their email list. They tend to focus on the hot buzzy thing, whether it's TikTok or Be Real or the list goes down. But how do you suggest restaurateurs from startup to getting into that what I would call small business, which would be probably the 10 to 15 units? How do you suggest they grow their list, and why should they care?
Well, yeah. So why should they care is very simple, because this is the most cost-effective way to reach people that actually want to hear from you. Because if they signed up for your email list, it means at least at some point in time they were interested in what you have to say, and it costs you next to nothing to reach them. Any other way of uh, getting out to them would cost you more money. Even if you know where they live, direct mail costs you, 50 cents to $1 a pop. If you want to chase them around the internet, it's going to be, well, it can get pretty crazy in terms of cost per transaction, per completed transaction. Impressions are cheap, but impressions don't get you very far. Um, so really, the main reason you want to do it is because it's the most cost-effective way. The ways to get people into your email marketing program, there are a lot of different options. I'm a huge fan, as you would guess, of loyalty programs. And loyalty programs give the guest a reason to get opted into your marketing, and they give you the guest a reason to share their purchasing information with you so you can acquire it easily. So I think the carrot of a loyalty program, whether it's being just a welcome offer or it may be just ongoing points and offers and so on, that is a really, really good carrot for the guests. And on the program itself, it almost kind of fades into background both for guests and for you. The base program structure, it needs to be such that you are not giving the form away, but it needs to be attractive enough that people bother to continue checking in. But it doesn't really need to be particularly expensive. But jumping off my favorite train of loyalty program as a carrot for getting people into your email marketing, online ordering, making sure that your flow opts guests in, extremely important. You want to opt them in at the right point. You want to opt them in not upfront, but towards the end of the transaction, because at the time when they make the transaction, it's really critically important that they finish that transaction, and that's your obviously number one priority. But making sure it's really easy for them to opt in at the end of the transaction is absolutely important. And if they don't, then what you can do, you still have their information. You have their email addresses. You have their often home addresses. You can still go around and chase them around the internet and entice them with your loyalty program or welcome offer, or even just a sign up offer for for your e-club. Being able to opt into the email marketing list in the restaurants at the point of sale as they are processing their transaction for dining services on the mobile device when they're checking out. There are millions of ways of getting their getting their information in. So it's not that hard to build email marketing lists, and it's a shame that not so many restaurants do it.
Yeah.
Having said that, once you've built it up, you have to do something with it. You cannot, like, if you keep on sending one email per month to the entire database announcing your LTO, you're probably not going to see a major effect. But like with any marketing effort, a lot of it is incremental, right? So you do it, you get into the habit, you do it all the time, you send it out very regularly, you start at least minor segmentation, and then over time you see the cumulative effect of it. But I don't think that email marketing for any brand has ever turned them from being failing to being a complete success overnight. It's just not something that you expect. It's an incremental tactic.
Certainly. So I've seen a number of systems that start to maybe encroach on the CRM world. So, for instance, MailChimp started as
Mhm.
pure email marketing. Now they have features like landing page design and truer CRM. Then we have folks like Punch and
Mhm.
Patronics, and I'm not going to mention the other one because I'm not happy with them. Who also seem to have like this: we'll build you an app. Oh, and by the way, you get all this data, and we have an email system. So email always seems to be this sort of tack on, as opposed to maybe more forward. Now, in the same vein, we also see Wi-Fi gating software companies like what used to be known as ZenReach. It's now Adentra. We had Jason on a couple episodes ago, where they are naturally building this email subscription through Wi-Fi gating, but then they also have email marketing on the back end. Is there a preference? Is there one that you prefer, that you suggest to clients? You say, this is the one that I have found to be the most effective. And does it have to be an app? Because I think people are getting fatigued on apps.
Yeah, so it's a difficult question. So I work with a lot of platforms. Some of the ones you mentioned, some of the ones you didn't, and maybe some of the ones that you're not happy about. So we work with a lot of platforms. I'll be guessing about which one it is, but I don't know for sure. Um, so I work with a lot of them, and my main lesson from doing this over the years is that in the vast majority of cases, if you're not getting the result that you are expecting from the tool that you're using, it's not about the tool, it's about how you're using it. So all of those tools are complete magic and miracle compared to what they used to be 20 years ago when I was starting in the restaurant world. You could not possibly think that you would get that level of marketing power and segmentation for something that cost you $100 per store per month.
Yeah.
It was just unthinkable. So yes, a lot of those tools are complicated. Yes, a lot of those tools are clunky. Yes, the technology is not anywhere as seamless as, like, none of them are perfect, right? It's software. It's a function of software. It's buggy, right? So most of the time, it's if the brand is not getting the results that it expects to see, it's about how they're using the software. It's about trying to stretch the tools that they have to do things that those tools are not designed to do more often than not, and then underutilizing the functionality that is fully developed in that tool. So what complicates all of this is also that, just like you said, a lot of the technology brands in the space are stretching into adjacent functionality. So virtually every brand that I work with that has more than two or three components in their marketing tech stack. In the vast majority of cases, there is some level of overlapping functionality, and partners within the marketing tech stack are fighting for who's going to do which piece. and
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then the marketer in the middle is going, well, I'm going to use this feature from here and I'm going to use that feature from there, but then that piece doesn't work. So, well, yeah, if I use this one, I can get my segments right. But if I go there, but if I get my segments right, I can't see the open rate. So I can target them by purchasing, but I can target them by engagement. And it becomes a freaking mess.
Yeah.
Um, With some clients, I help them sort that mess. In many cases successfully, and often it's about lowering expectations and figuring out which features you truly care about, which are the 5 features you really want to work.
Yeah.
And then everything else, if it works, great. If it doesn't, who cares, right? So you set the expectations and you make sure that the basics are used consistently and appropriately. Um, yeah, so it's tricky, yeah, because everybody does most everything now. Your email marketing platforms are taking on SMS. A
Yep.
lot of platforms used to do apps, so now there's online ordering apps separate from the loyalty apps, and yeah, it's it's a messy stack, and I there is not a single. I think if there was a single provider out there that actually did everything start to finish really well, I would love to work for them, but I haven't seen them yet. So
Yeah. I think we're,
I
I mean, suffice to
I
say,
joined
in the
that company in a
throes.
blink, but yeah.
Yeah, we're definitely in the throes of convergence. I mean, it is choppy water out there. For all the reasons you just said. I think what is frustrating at times is how email seems to be the tack on. It seems to be, oh well, we can do this pretty easily, so let me put it on there. But rare is the case that I see a really strong email offering from some of these providers, like Patronics. Patronics allows you to dump images into a system and then sends it out, and that's an email. Counter to that is Mailchimp, which has a robust compliant email marketing builder that is truly optimized for email. But then they don't have
Mhm.
the other benefits as well. Um, in your world where you start to have these multiple systems of overlap, how do you start to find that conversion point, and how do you zero in on which system is going to be my email, fulfillment provider?
It's always a bit of a compromise because again, historically, loyalty platforms are good at loyalty and segmentation. Their email marketing is a little weaker. The email marketing platforms are fantastic at email marketing, very bad at capturing guest transactions. So then there is CDPs that are starting to come in with different levels of simplicity. So I think the answer in the near term is actually going to be around bringing in the CDP to be able to manage everything. And I'm in the middle of a project right now where I'm hoping we're going to be able to solve it for a small to mid-sized brand to where everything is reasonably optimized. But yeah, it's a challenge, and then different brands have different preferences, right? Some care most. They have so much invested into their loyalty program and loyalty database that has to be the center of their marketing tech stack. And then others, they may have launched a loyalty program, and it's you know 5 to 10% participation rate. So it's not that big of a deal for them yet. So they may care more about using the most efficient email marketing tool, and then the loyalty is kind of on the side, and it's you're doing push notifications and maybe in-app messages through the loyalty program, but the majority of your marketing comes through email. Because I see brands where email marketing list is 1 million people and the loyalty marketing list is 50,000 people. And then I have brands where the email marketing list is 10% of the loyalty database. So it can go either way, right? So it really depends on what is at the center and the circumstances that the brand is in. But yeah, in my ideal world, I would take features like email marketing quality of Braze and combine it with the loyalty power of Punch or Patronics, and blend them together. But that thing doesn't exist yet.
Yeah, not yet, right? But if anyone's listening, there's a need, to
There
say
is a
the
need.
least.
It's just complicated. It's not easy.
Yeah, and I wonder if some of these newer tech companies are going to tackle that more effectively, because they're starting with in a world where they can see that need. Whereas a lot of these places like Patronics, I'm not knocking Patronics at all, but they've been around. They started in gift cards, and they still have that gift card basis. And they add on apps, they add on this, they add on. And I sometimes think it's better to come at it clean, where you don't have these legacy systems and legacy anchors holding you
Mhm.
back. And so maybe one of these fresh folks are going to come up and overtake or at least make a good statement, much like OLLO did. Not to bring up the you know
The other
the
Olga,
other OLLO,
uh,
yeah.
yes,
But OLLO started as online ordering solely, and they were easily able to grapple away a lot of market share from the likes of Brink and the likes of Aloha, who simply had online ordering as a tack on,
mhm.
something that was not effectively, I think, tackled as a priority from those larger corporations. Are there any systems that you have your eye on right now that are really attractive to you that you think could be up and comers?
I'm a little hesitant to mention the names because I work with so many of them, and anybody I forget,
Sure.
if they're listening, they're probably gonna get a little upset. So I feel bad about kind of, pointing out a specific brand here. So, but there's a lot of cool technology out there. But what I am still looking for is somebody who is looking holistically looking at the marketing, at the restaurant marketing stack and the needs that are associated with it. Because there are a lot of companies doing pieces of the puzzle with
Mhm.
overlapping add-ons, like you said, but thinking about, and it's really interesting because I talk to marketing platforms doing all kinds of things: SMS marketing for restaurants, loyalty for restaurants, small and big, Wi-Fi marketing here, QR code ordering in the drive-through there. So there's like one of everything. Was I talking to recently? Subscriptions. Um, so all of those components. But what a lot of the uh, people, usually guys in the technology world, do not understand is when you take the restaurant operator, which is a human,
Mhm.
and you put him in the middle of the restaurant. And then you realize that that person has to deal with 17 different vendors on any given day across so many different systems. What you think is a big component of the stack is really just one tiny little thing that they would just rather wave so it goes away and doesn't bother them anymore.
Right.
um, and I was listening to the presentation on was a brand called Full Course. I don't know if
Mhm.
you know Lauren.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
she was just on the show.
oh, cool. Yeah, yeah. So I was on the webinar that she did with Brian Meredith, who is a restaurant coach, consultant, and so he was talking about his view on the technology in the restaurants, and it brought up things that I haven't thought about for a long time. He was talking about, well, what happens when you're in a restaurant on a busy night and your direct TV goes out, and as you as somebody who is not physically in the restaurants and operating with your CRM systems and loyalty programs and everything that is a little bit removed from the operation, it kind of dawned on me for the first time in probably a decade, because I haven't been in restaurants all that much, that yeah, actually, if your IT support on the TV service goes out, that's actually a substantially bigger problem than if your CRM doesn't work this week. Uh, it's and you tend to forget when you are in this world, like, oh my God, my email had the wrong subject line. Oh my God, my email went to the wrong segment. Oh my God, people got the wrong offer. Redemption rate's like 4% if you're super lucky, right? So it's not that big of a deal. But then if you're there on a Friday night and the TV service goes down, that is a really big problem. And it's a much more noticeable problem. But none of us in the marketing technology world even think about that range of problems that the restaurants encounter in their everyday life. And at the end of the day, the guy who deals with the TV, maybe on a larger scale, is the same guy that deals with me and my CRM. Right? And
Mhm.
what is
Mhm.
the priority? So seeing the big picture of their life is really, really important.
I love that. So this has been really informative. I have a lot more questions, but we are coming up on time, so I'm going to drop the hardest question of all. If you had one final meal, where would you eat? What would you eat, and why?
Oh, that is a tough one. One final meal. So that would have to be split between three countries. Um,
It's your last meal.
so
You can do whatever you want.
yeah, so I'd have to go between some Peruvian ceviches And there's going to be seafood pretty much in all of them, and some sushi in Japan, and then probably like trout hand rolls in Vietnam. So something
Ooh.
that combines those things will probably be. I don't know if I can get one of those, but yeah. So I'm a big fan of assorted Asian food and Latin American influenced by Asian too. So that's where my preferences are.
I love that so much. Olga, this has been so informative and really helpful. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day and sharing all that you know. How can people get in touch with you? Where can they find you?
Sure. So my name is Olga Lopategui, and nobody can pronounce the last name, so I'm used to that. So it's OLLO as an OLLO consult.com. Look me up on LinkedIn, shoot me a note. So I'm pretty easy to find.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Olga. We'll talk to you real soon.
If you love
Thank
what we
you.
served up, please follow us at Vigor Branding on Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Medium. Forktales is produced by the team at Vigor. Audio and video post-productions provided by Zencaster. Music performed by Jet Trash and licensed through musicbed.com. Joseph handles his own hair, makeup, and stunts. Copyright 2003 to 2021, Vigor Graphic Design LLC, all rights reserved.